The 2024 MLB regular season has just 1 week remaining, and both the American League and National League wildcard races are red hot. They have been for like a month now, and this is the final week. This is where they are going to pan out. Teams are going to make it, and teams are going to be eliminated. It's going to be exciting. Welcome back to Normal Baseball. I'm Alex Normal Dog. That's Lewis. And we have been gone for quite a while, but we are back now just in time for the playoffs. You know, life gets busy. It is what it is. Just in time for the playoffs and the last week of the regular season, which a lot is bound to go down. So I'm excited. I know Lewis is excited, and let's get into it.
Yeah,
All right.
let's do it.
All right. So this episode, we just want to talk about both of the wild card races because, like I mentioned, they are hot. Teams, very close races here. It's been very intense for like I said, the better part of a month now. You've been able to see where these wild card races are going to boil down to, what teams were going to be in it, and just how close it was going to be coming down to the end of the season. Lewis, do you
What
want
is
to
so
go,
oh sorry.
go for it?
What is so great about it is that sure, yes, it's coming like it really started realistically about a month ago of oh my god, can X team pass up Y team, that type of stuff. But really, it's been all season. We've seen both the highs and lows of every team that we're about to talk about today. And honestly, at this point, I'll just say it before anything. I'm not surprised if any team does or does not make the playoffs with this wild card because every team has played so well at so many different points during the season that that's what makes this conversation that we're about to have so exciting.
I would happen to agree with you. And with that, where would you like to start? The American League or the National League? Both are very extremely tight races. So, where would you like to start? I'll give you the option.
I would love to start in the National League.
The National League. All right. That is a perfect place to start. So, the National League, I think we'll just go team by team, kind of assess their situation, how they got there, where they're at now, what games they have left, and how it could play out for them, good or bad. So, we'll
Yeah,
start
let's
with
do it.
the top of the NL wild card, which is the San Diego Padres, who are 3 games up in the NL wild card. They've won 8 of their last 10 games. They've won 4 games in a row. Granted, they did just play the White Sox. So take that as you will.
Old baseball team.
Still is a baseball team. And yeah, the Padres, they're up there. They're 3 games up. They're pretty comfortable, comfortably in that spot. They only have 6 games left. So I believe they would just need to win 3 games, and they're guaranteed to be in the wild card. 3 of their next
Yeah.
6. Uh,
However, let's not forget the division is still in play for the Fathers.
it
They have
is.
3 games against the Dodgers, and then they play 3 games against the Diamondbacks, who the Diamondbacks are actually 3 games behind them of taking the first wild card spot as of right now. Baseball's baseballing, and that is very exciting.
This is huge because I feel like everyone might have thought the Dodgers have already run away with the division. They haven't. Like you just said, the Padres are 3 games back. It's a division race as much as it is a wild card race for the Padres.
Oh, for sure. And let's not discount, when people say, like, wow, I thought that the Dodgers would have this division locked up. It's not so much that the Dodgers are playing down and not playing as well. They still are a 93 win baseball team of the time of this recording. The Padres are a 90-win team and
Yeah.
have the opportunity. They could sweep the Dodgers. They then could sweep the Arizona Diamondbacks. You'd be talking about a 96-win baseball team. Like, the Padres have been played out of their mind. I'm so beyond proud of like what that team has done, especially bringing back guys like Jerks and Profar on like that $1 million deal, which you've heard until the cows come home about it. But the Padres have played so like they've played so well,
They,
and it's just really cool to see that it's going to come down to the wire for them of whether or not they can steal the division right out from under the Dodgers' noses.
no, you're right. It's not even about the Dodgers playing down. It's about the Padres playing up. The Padres have I want to say been the surprise team this year. Coming into the season, they lost Juan Soto, and there was a lot of questioning on. Yes, they got Dylan Cease, but they also lost Blake Snell. So there was a lot of positives, negatives, and I didn't really know how to feel about them coming into the season. And whatever they've done has worked. They traded for Luis Arias early in the season. He's been phenomenal. He's hitting 323 right now because he's Luis Arias. Um,
Done.
and not to mention Jackson Merrill, who, you know, that's a whole nother conversation to be had, who should win NL Rookie of the Year. But either way, Jackson Merrill will be in the top 2 of that. So they have a phenomenal rookie. They have a batting champion, 2-time batting champion. And then Jurickson Profar, a guy who before the season would have thought that Jurickson Profar was going to have the season that he's having.
Yeah, I could not agree with you more. And I'm going to highlight one more thing about the Padres is their deadline moves. They went out and picked up 4 pitchers. Martin Perez, Tanner Scott, Jason Adam, Brian Hoeing, which all 4 guys had shown signs at some point in their career that they can be elite, but it was a matter of, at one point, Jason Adam was on the Rays. The Rays tapped into it, and then it went away. Like, no one was sure about it. Martin Perez was elite that 1 year with the Rangers. However, since trading for them, let me just read you off the stats here. Martin Perez in 48.1 innings pitched, right? Good amount of time. 2.61 ERA. Tanner Scott has 24.2 innings pitched, and he's carrying a 2.19 ERA. Jason Adam, who is personally my favorite of the bunch because he's just such you don't expect him to be as good of a pitcher as he is, just based on what we've seen from him at times. 24 1/3 an inning. 1.11 ERA. Amazing.
Incredible.
And Brian Hoeing, who has pitched 20.2 innings, is pitching to a 0.87 ERA since joining the Padres. That is what you call an AJ Preller masterclass.
He's known for those types of things, isn't he?
I guess at this point, really, he is. It's one thing to go out there and sign all the big free agents, but the fact that you're able to pull off these trades at the deadline, Tanner Scott was wanted by 10 teams, and the Padres gave up the most. Tanner Scott's not even their guaranteed closer every game. They still have Robert Suarez in the bullpen. It's fabulous.
Yeah, I mean, Robert Suarez is even a whole nother monster to be dealing with. Robert Suarez has had a phenomenal year as well. Another guy on the Padres that going into the season, I was definitely not thinking he was going to be as lights out as he's been. It really has been insane for him this year.
Totally. And, on top of the whole lineup, Manny Machado, congratulations, have to shout him out. Most home runs by a Padre, good on him. Like, everything is just clicked right for the Padres when they need it to, especially Jackson Merrill. I mean, moving from shortstop in Double-A one season to center field in the major leagues the next season and doing it while hitting, 288 or something like that? Like,
yeah,
he's just a monster. Everything about the Padres just screams like, we're coming for it, and it does not matter what anyone else says, what anyone else thinks, how they play against us. We're going to play our brand of baseball, and we're going to win, and that's why I wanted to start in the National League, because the Padres, I think, are the biggest threat in terms of the postseason in general, whether it be them having that first wild card or possibly even stealing the division from the Dodgers.
Yeah, I feel like they're underestimated in a way, and you don't.
For some reason they're an underdog. A 90-win team is an underdog.
Yeah, no, it is. It's pretty crazy to think about it like that. I feel like it's just been so sneaky. They've been playing a really good brand of baseball recently as well. I also want to point out we can't forget Fernando Tatis Jr. is on this team. Fernando, we didn't even mention him. Fernando Tatis Jr. in the last week, he's hitting. Oh, if the number in the last week, he's hitting 296. In the last 2 weeks, he's hitting 340 with a 1.163 OPS. So Nando's going off at the right time. He missed a lot of time because of injury. He came back. It almost feels like he didn't miss a beat. He's been absolutely incredible for them. And, I mean, it all starts tomorrow or Tuesday with this Dodgers series for them. If they go on and even win 2 of 3 from the Dodgers, they're 1 game out going into the final series of the year. And who do the Dodgers play in there?
That's when the best baseball gets played.
Right, and then
the Dodgers
play the Rockies.
Colorado Rockies.
Right, so knowing that the Dodgers are going to play the Rockies in the final season of the series of the year, if you're the Padres, you have to go in thinking we have to sweep them because they might not lose to the Rockies.
Yeah, you're right. I do think the Padres, no matter the outcome of the series, as long as they don't get swept, you look at it and you're like, listen, that's it. Regular season's winding down. Let's just get into the playoffs and we'll worry about beating them then. I mean, that's the Dodgers' MO for every season, it feels like, except for the COVID year or the 2020 season. They cannot perform in the playoffs. If you're the Padres, you've beaten them before in the playoffs when their team looked just as scary. Sure, they now have a top 2 hitter in baseball in Shohei Ohtani. Good on them. The Padres are a damn good lineup, and I'm
Yeah.
just so excited to see what they look like come postseason time. Sneaky hoping that they can win the division because that would just be funny.
Oh, that would be
But
insane.
the flip side of the coin is if they don't win the division, I get to watch at least 2 more games of the Padres playing than the Dodgers. So
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I like both teams. I love watching both teams.
I love both teams. I'm hoping that the Fathers I'm hoping that they just continue on the tear that they've been on. That's all that I really want out of them. I just want great baseball. Definitely will be watching the Padres Dodgers series upcoming this week.
Okay, and then I want to move on to I kind of want to quickly do this team, the Arizona Diamondbacks, the NL champions of 2023. They were in the World Series last year. They're currently tied for the second wild card spot with the New York Mets.
Yeah.
It is a very intense race, as we said. The Diamondbacks haven't been playing amazing baseball recently. They've been playing some tough teams, though, and they play the Giants this week, which is definitely a winnable series for them. And then they play the Padres, so that Padres series could be a big one for them as well, depending on how the Padres play against the Dodgers. It's a lot of now, since there's 2 series left. When you're looking at the remaining schedules, it's still hard because, like, for the Diamondbacks, they could sweep the Giants, but then still be 3 games back of the Padres if they sweep the Dodgers, and then they would be tied. It's very complicated, is what I'm trying to say. So that's what I'm trying to get at here.
Yeah, of course it's complicated, but that's the beauty of baseball is that there's so many different outcomes that can happen within this last 6 to 7 games for most teams. It's going to be fun. I think for Arizona, it's different than the Padres of like, let's just get to the postseason for the Padres. The Diamondbacks are tied for the second wild card right now with the New York Mets, who sit at third. If you're the Diamondbacks, you're like, every game is a must win. This is when your playoffs start. Because the last thing that you want to do is fall out of the playoffs, especially after hearing all the noise during the offseason of, oh, it was a fluke run. It doesn't matter. You spent all this money to show, like, hey, our team made the World Series. We're going to bolster our pitching. We're going to try to make our lineup look sexier. And they did that. Don't get me wrong. Sure, not the best results in the first season, but you want to make the postseason if you're the Diamondbacks, just the same as any other baseball team. However, this is playoffs already. This is the playoffs for the Arizona Diamondbacks because they're all in must-win situations.
Yeah,
I mean, all the games are must-win games. Excuse me.
Yeah, they are. See, this kind of what I wanted to say kind of goes to the next team, the next 2 teams, honestly, in the NL wildcard race. The Diamondbacks, we'll just get into it. I mean, the Diamondbacks are actively rooting for the Mets to sweep the Braves this week. The Mets are second in the wild card spot. The Mets are tied for second with the Diamondbacks. Yes, they're tied for second with the Diamondbacks in that wild card spot. And then the Braves are just outside 2 games back. So the Mets and the Braves play a 3-game series this week. So why I said the Diamondbacks are rooting for the Mets to sweep the Braves is because if the Mets sweep the Braves, even if the Diamondbacks lose all 3 games to the Giants, they're still 2 games up on the Braves going into the last 3 games of the season. Then they would just have to win 1 game in those last 3 to secure their spot. So,
yeah,
the Diamondbacks are heavily rooting for the Mets. Again, with the Diamondbacks, they got their reinforcements. They got Lourdes Gurriel off the IL. My goat, personally.
National hero.
Christian Walker came off the IL recently. Corbin Carroll's completely turned his season around in the last couple weeks, last month or so.
In essentially half the season.
Yeah.
Impressive.
I mean, Corbin Carroll is an anomaly. My concern with the Diamondbacks is obviously pitching. I think that's
Yeah.
kind of everyone's concern with them. Their pitching has not been good. So you're coming against the Giants team. That's, I mean, they were in it for a little while. They're obviously not in it now, but they're not a team that I would go into a series against saying, oh, you know what, we're definitely going to win all 3 games. We should definitely sweep this. The Giants could easily take 2 of 3 in this series. So,
Yeah.
you know, Diamondbacks.
The Giants. Sorry.
I said the Diamondbacks aren't can't get too comfortable, and they shouldn't.
Totally agree
One
with you.
of first
The
games.
Giants are not a team to mess around with. Although, yes, sure, they're not in playoff contention. Still have a very good pitching staff, and their lineup, when it's on, it's one of the better lineups in baseball.
Yeah, yeah. So that's the Diamondback situation. Then going back to the Mets and the Braves, they play a 3-game series this week, which is going to be one of the most electric series of the year. We saw it 2 years ago, but they were fighting for the division, and the Mets
Yep.
were up on the Braves and then got swept in Atlanta. This is the same kind of situations happening. They're up 2 games. They're going to Atlanta in the second to last series of the year. They pretty much, I would say for the Mets, they just need to win. They need to win 2 games. They need to win the series. They don't need to sweep. They just need to win the series, I think, to be in a comfortable position, be in the playoffs. And honestly, I don't see why they wouldn't. I mean, with the way the Mets are playing, they could. It feels like they could beat any team right now. They just beat the Phillies in a series. They took 2 of 3. That second game on Sunday they took 3 of 4. My bad. That second game on Sunday was absolutely electric. Edwin Diaz was a little dicey at the end, but he got it done. Which this season, if you looked at earlier this season, it didn't seem like that would ever happen. But if Edwin Diaz can play like that, listen, I think the Mets could make it to the division series should they continue to sneak in the wild card. I don't see them slowing down. So I think the Mets, in my personal opinion, will be in the playoffs this year.
Yeah. I do. There's a part of me that does agree with you. However, we've seen time and time again this Atlanta Braves team play with their backs against the wall and like win when it matters most. And that's not just for this season. We've seen it throughout the course of the last 3 or 4 years. They're good. They are banked up though. That's their problem. I do, for the sake of Mets fans, I want the Mets to win this series. However, if I woke up and magically it was Friday and you told me the Braves took 2 out of 3 and now the Mets are sitting a game out, I'd be like, yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, well, if the Braves take 2 of 3, the Mets are still 1 game up. Braves have to sweep to be in that wild card. Actually, no, Braves take 2 of 3. Yeah, Mets would be 1 up. I think, right?
No, then they would be tied. So then it would come down to the 3rd game.
Right, and then it would come down to the 3rd game. Right, so if the Braves take 2 of 3.
Mets would be 1 up.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Which sounds a lot more doable right now when you're talking about 3 games after that being 2 games down as compared to being a game down. Doesn't sound like that much, but you only need the other team to lose 1 time. You can take advantage of that.
Yeah, the Mets have a. Yeah,
what are you pondering?
It's gonna be interesting. There is so I was talking to someone. They said there's some storm coming into Atlanta this week too. So one of the games has a potential of getting delayed. But looking ahead, it's Sevy against Swallenbach in Game 1. David Peterson against Sale in Game 2. And Sean Manaea against Max Fried in Game 3, which for the on the Mets side, it doesn't sound like those are big arms, but those guys have been electric this season. Sevy has been phenomenal. He's completely turned around the perception of, can't stay healthy for a whole season, is washed because of elbow injuries and shoulder injuries. He's completely turned that around. David Peterson is like what Tyler McGill was in the beginning of like 2019 or 2023, yeah. But he's done it consistently. And then Sean Manaea, I feel like no one's talking about Sean Manaea, but he sneakily has a 3.29 ERA and 183 strikeouts this season. He's been phenomenal for them as well. It was the shaving of the head that's really made Sean Manaea such a dog.
Well, between that and he fixed some of his pitching mechanics, the Mets,
No, but
shout out to the Mets for fixing both Luis Severino and Sean Manaea, both guys who will have quite the hefty paycheck waiting for them in free agency after the season.
I agree. I agree. Um, Anything else you got on the NL wild card, or do you want to move on to the AL?
I do want to just say one more thing of if the Dodgers do fall into the wild card, hypothetical Padres sweep, Dodgers in the wild card, I do think that the wild card is sort of an advantage of you get the running start into the divisional series. I'm not going to count any team out that is in the wild card. Hell, even if it's the third wild card team, just because of that running start, and we've seen it time and time again with teams, throughout the course of the three wild card teams instead of two. Like getting that running start into the divisional series means a lot, and I'm excited to see what the teams do to plan for the wild card series.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. Do you want to move over to the American League now?
Yeah, let's get after it.
So, the American League at the top of the AL wildcard picture is the Baltimore Orioles with an 86-70 record. They're 4 games up, like I mentioned. The Orioles were in a very heated divisional contest with the Yankees, the division race for the AL East, up until about a week ago. And a week ago, it all turned around, and the Yankees just started to run away with the division. The Yankees are now 6 games up in the division and only need to win 1 game against the Orioles this week. They play 3 games this week. They only need to win 1 game against the Orioles this week to clinch the division. So I think it's safe to say, obviously not a definite, but I think it's safe to say that the Orioles will be a wild card team. And sure, they've been playing pretty badly recently, but I still think they'll get in there no matter what. I think the Orioles are pretty safe in their spot, unless they lose. If they lose out, then that's pretty much the only way they'll not be in. Their magic number to make the playoffs is 2, so they're right there.
The only place that the Orioles can go is up. Technically,
Right.
they still have a shot at the division. It would be a Yankee meltdown before an Oriole comeback, especially since they play 3 games against each other, and the Yankees, who over the last couple of weeks have been heating up. Sure, and Judge is hitting homers again. Soto, thank God he's okay after fouling a ball off his foot the other day. Stanton looks to be healthy and good. Like everything is going right for the Yankees right now. Whereas on the other side, for the Orioles, it just feels like their pitching clicks 1 inning and then their hitting cannot help them out. Like I just watched 2 games back to back in person, and it was just like, why is Keston Herstad the DH when all he does is stare at strike 3? Like put up a competitive at bat. It's very disappointing for the Orioles because we saw in the beginning of the season how good they are and how much potential they were showing, especially after trading for Corbin Burns. Like they were the team to beat, and they've kind of played themselves out of this race more than getting thrown out of the race the way that we would have anticipated. Like they're just not playing the best brand of baseball. I would hope that if anyone were to pull them out of like this slump that they're in as a team, it would be the New York Yankees because high competition, like we can still win the division, like let's go out and kill them, let's play our best brand of baseball. That's all that I'm really rooting for in this series. However, if the Yankees do take the division, Baltimore, be happy with that top wild card and, just make it further than last year.
I mean, the only way the Orioles are going to win the division is if the Yankees don't win a single game. They lose their last 6 games of the season. Because they're 6 games up right now with 6 games left to play. So if they win a single game, even if the Orioles sweep them, then okay, the Orioles are 3 games back. But if the Yankees win one of their last 3 games, they go 4 games up or 3 games up with 2 games left to play. So it's a highly unlikely situation. But all the Orioles can do is just win as many games as they possibly can. I mean, for every team, all they can do is win. So
Totally.
I want to talk about here. I might have to say all 4 teams just to give context. Who's under the Orioles right now?
4.
So right now, behind the Orioles, 4 games back of the Orioles, are the Tigers, and the Royals tied in the second wild card spot, so second and third wild card spot, both with an 82-74 record. The Tigers have been one of the most hot teams in baseball. No one would have thought, I think maybe a month ago, no one would have thought the Tigers were going to be in the wild card picture. Here we are. They're tied. They're in the wild card right now. And the Royals, people thought they were going to be contending for the division. For a lot of the year, it was division, was the site for the the Royals. And they have just completely lost it. They have been on a horrible slump as of late. But they are still they still find themselves in the wild card spot right now. Just under them is the Minnesota Twins, who are kind of in the same boat as the Royals. They were kind of looking, all right, we're definitely a wild card team for most of the year, and now they've been on a pretty big skid, and they find themselves one game out. And then right below them, you have the Seattle Mariners, who are only 2 games back. They're 80-76. The Mariners have been in such a weird spot all season for me at least. They're just like, I don't know.
Their 10-game division lead was the fakest thing I've ever seen, and I mean that respectfully, Mariners fans. It's just because of the Astros. Like, we know who they are every season, time and time again.
I think it was almost a guarantee that, like, even when they were up by 10 games, it was just like a let's wait till the Astros get hot, and then we'll determine if they have an actual shot at winning the division. And the Astros got hot, and the Mariners just completely fell off.
They fell off, fired their manager. Like, the Mariners fans in the middle of the season, I don't know how you made it to the end.
Yeah,
like, good on you.
Yeah, it was definitely a rough road for them. But now I want to talk about what these teams' outlooks are for the rest of the season. The Tigers are in a very, very good spot because they have 6 home games left. 6 games left. They're all home games, 2 home series against the Tampa Bay Rays, who have not had a good season. They're 500 right now, 78-78. And then the Chicago White Sox, who are on pace to have the worst season ever. So
they just need to lose one game.
The Tigers' magic number, they need to just win. Well, actually, their magic number is not as easy. They need to win a lot, but it's more of they have a very easy schedule remaining compared to the other teams. When you look at the Royals, they have the Nationals coming up this week, which shouldn't be too much of a problem. And then the Braves in the last series of the year, which is going to be, that could be a very intense series, depending on what happens with this Braves-Mets series. If the Braves win those games against the Mets, the Royals and the Braves will both go into that series saying, we need to win every single game to stay in the playoffs. So that could be a very intense ending. Man, I mean, the Royals, it's so sad with the Royals because they were, in my mind, a surefire playoff team all year.
Yeah, I mean, their lineup bangs. It's that simple. Lugo and Waka, their pitching staff in general, has been quite the surprise. It's great to see, obviously. Cleveland, different monster. And AL Central, what are you going to do? A different team will win it every year. If the White Sox win it next year, count me as not sure. I find it interesting because for the first 2 wildcard teams, right? For the second and third, the Detroit Tigers as well as the Kansas City Royals, they control their own destiny. Win and get in. Like, it is up to you playing. As for the other 2 teams, the Minnesota Twins and the Seattle Mariners, the Twins play the Miami Marlins and then finish out the season playing the Baltimore Orioles. Which, you look at that Marlins series and you're like, okay, Twins can definitely sweep. I'm not too worried about that. The Marlins have not been a good team this year.
The Marlins have
played Baltimore. Can you really beat Baltimore, and can you trust that another team is going to beat one of those 2 teams above you? I don't know.
The Twins is a very shocking one to me.
What, that they're close? For me, it is. I don't think that the Twins should be as close as they are. I'll say it.
Kind of. I mean, they've just been horrible recently. Like, if they even played, like, 500 ball recently, they'd be pretty comfortably in a spot. They'd be like 3 games up, 2 games up right now.
Yeah.
But they just haven't. You know, they lost 3 of 4 to the Guardians. They lost 2 of 3 to the Reds. And then they just lost 2 of 3 to the Red Sox. So they just dropped 3 straight series in the middle of a wild card race when a team like the Detroit Tigers just seems to be beating everyone that comes in their way. It's tough for the Twins. And to be honest, I think I'm fine if the Twins miss the playoffs. Sorry, Twins fans. But I'm big on the Tigers right now. Because, I mean, how exciting are the Detroit Tigers? I'm riding the hot hand is what I'm doing, and I'm okay with it.
That's fair.
I think it's fair.
I think I posted a tweet when the Tigers were 2 games out that showed that, hey, they're 2 games out, Twins are in the last place. I said, are we now all rooting for the Tigers? And I said, yeah, we're all rooting for the Tigers. And for me, the only reason why I kind of am okay with the Twins missing the playoffs compared to any other team, their big 3, Correa, Buxton, and Royce Lewis, just don't play. Like, all 3 of them throughout a vast majority of the season have not played. And it's depressing.
Injuries, though.
I don't even... Yeah, like, it's injuries. It's stuff like they're glass cannons. And I'm going to be honest, I don't think Buxton will play. I don't think that Correa will play. I don't think Royce Lewis will play.
In the playoffs,
like,
you mean?
Yeah, I don't think if they make the playoffs, like, I don't think that it's a shoo-in to guarantee all 3 of them will be in the lineup for all 3 of the wildcard games. Or 2, excuse me. Like, I just don't think that they're healthy enough.
Yeah,
which sucks because all 3 of those guys should genuinely be 1, 2, and 3 in terms of the AL MVP voting every year with how good, especially how good Royce Lewis is. But they're not. Like, they're not healthy, and it sucks. That's why I'm okay with the Twins missing the playoffs. On the other hand, we do have the Mariners, who are playing the Houston Astros in Houston, and then finish up the season playing the Oakland Athletics, who have been the best team since the All-Star break. What do you think they're going to do, Alex? What are you thinking? They're 2 games out right now.
I mean, it's a tough situation for the Mariners because you are arguably, out of all the teams in the wild card races, both AL and NL, you're the one who feels like you're fighting back the most. They're not playing any other wild card team in these last 6 games of theirs, which is in its own. They're playing the Astros right now, who need to win 1 more game to win the division. So the Astros are playing for something too. And then you have the Athletics, like you said, they're going to be playing their final games as the Oakland Athletics, whether or not that means anything. But again, they've been the best team since the All-Star break. So I think it's a steep uphill climb for the Mariners here. They're playing good.
It definitely is.
They're playing good teams. Like we said, the Astros have been on fire. You know, they've kind of turned into the Astros that we know. Their pitching staff has been lights out.
What did Jeff Passan say a couple of years ago? The Astros are inevitable.
Correct.
Right? I think that statement stands true to this day.
So they've turned into the inevitable Astros, the Thanos Astros that we know, and the Athletics have been hot too. They're not an easily beatable team like they were last year. I feel like the perception has changed a lot. Like last year, they were kind of like in the White Sox position. I mean, even not as bad as the White Sox, but it still felt like you went into a series against the Athletics and you said, all right, well, if we sweep, we should sweep. But if we lose this, we're going to win the series. And if we don't, then what did we do wrong? Because something must have gone horribly wrong. It's not like that this year, especially in the second half. So I think the Mariners have a tough battle to fight in these last 2 series of the year if they're going to want to make the playoffs. And I'm sure they do, obviously.
They definitely do have a tough battle. I wish that their pitching staff, especially Luis Castillo, were completely healthy, because you can see like George Kirby is laboring through at
He's
bats.
a dog,
like
though.
Luis Castillo, like he's dealing with that hamstring stuff right now. Their pitching in the bullpen has sort of, I don't want to say fallen off. It's just not been as sharp as we've always expected it to be over the last few years. Which makes it such a bummer because the Mariners have a very good team. It's just not good enough to compete in a very, very deep American League where if you said to a Mariners fan when they were 10 games up in the division, hey, the Twins are going to have a better record than you going into the second to last series of the season, they would look at you like you're crazy. But that's the case right now. I mean, the Mariners have the potential to be a much better team, which is why I'm not counting them out, which is why I think it was good that we talk about them. They just need to win. They
Yeah.
need to win, and they need to hope something else falls. But, how likely is that? I don't know. I don't want to say that it's a guarantee. Sorry, Mariners fans.
Again, all you could do for any of these teams now is just win. That's all you can do. It's just win every possible game.
For the Tigers and the Royals especially, win and get in. That's the most important part.
Right. I mean, Tigers, Royals, Mets, and Diamondbacks, they're all in the win and get in scenarios. I mean, obviously the Padres and the Orioles are too, but they're a little more comfortably up there. For the Mets, Diamondbacks, Royals, and Tigers, they're all just, win. If we win, we don't have to worry about what other teams do. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, controlling your own destiny is a very, very important thing come this part of the season.
But then when you look at the Twins and the Mariners, it's, we can win every single game, but it still does matter what other teams do. Like you said, they don't control their destiny, which is not a comfortable position to be in at all during the season. Or during the regular season. It's much better to know that you control your own destiny as a team.
I could not agree with you more, Alex. And I think that's about what I have. I just did want to play a little game with you. If you're in. It's a fun little science project.
I'm in.
You in?
I mean, yeah, go for it.
We talked about 8 teams today. The wild card teams for both the American League and the National League. If you could take the pitching staff from one of the teams in the race and the lineup from one team in the race to build a true contender, what combination of teams would you choose?
Okay, I like where you're going. I see the vision. I think pitching staff, it's tough, but I'm probably gonna have to pick the Seattle Mariners. I mean,
really?
You look at their rotation with Luis Castillo, George Kirby, Brian Wu, and Bryce Miller. That is a insane pitching staff. I mean, starting rotation. I know it's
when healthy,
and they're healthy right now. And then the bullpen, their bullpen, it might not be like the Guardians-esque, but Munoz as the closer, they have a lot of guys in that bullpen that I think can hold down the fort. So I'd pick them for my pitching staff. And then for my lineup, I'm in between a couple teams, the obvious Orioles, but I think I'm going to go with the New York Mets.
Really?
That lineup has... Going into the season, I think that's what my thoughts going into the season, where that is a good lineup. It's more of, is the pitching going to be there? That lineup has been there. Just last week, they scored 10 runs in 3 straight games. You got Luis Angel Acuna, who just came up and has been a monster. He's homered, he's tripled, he's stole bases, he's scored runs, he's done kind of it all. You have Lindor.
And when it's not him, it's Lindor.
Right, and you have Lindor, who's going to be the MVP runner-up right behind Shohei Ohtani. You have him. You have Nimmo, who's been playing maybe not his best season ever, but he's having a very good season counting stats wise. Maybe not averages.
Second half has been his friend.
Right. JD Martinez is always an amazing player, and then you got the surprise guys like Jose Iglesias. Like, I just think it's a great lineup. I think it's fun. It's electric. They get it done. They're clutch. I'm a big fan of the Mets lineup right now.
Yeah, I can totally see where you're coming from.
Now,
if I were to choose,
I was going to say, let me mirror that question right back to you. If you had to pick a pitching staff and a lineup from the wild card teams, who would you pick? Obviously, can't be from the same team.
Yeah. If I were to choose, I would take the pitching staff of the Kansas City Royals for the same reason as why you took the Mariners. Royals they have the pitching. The starting pitching looks great. Michael Wacha and Seth Lugo really have turned their pitching staff into just something spectacular. And as for their lineup, I think it sounds a little chalk, but I want the San Diego Padres. The San Diego Padres lineup has the most potential to hang genuinely, we could be talking football scores. Like
Yeah.
Jackson Merrill, Fernando Tatis Jr., Manny Machado, Luis Arias, Jurickson Profar. The list just goes on and on.
If
And they are amazing.
if I didn't pick the Mets, I would have picked the Padres. That is an amazing lineup. And with the Royals pitching, you can't forget about Cole Reagans either. Reagans has been
Oh my god,
amazing.
my goat.
And their
Picked
bullpen.
him to win the Cy Young. I really, by the way, in this experiment, I really thought about saying the Tigers because it's hard to deny a Cy Young award
Yeah.
winner for this season.
That's true. Tariq Skubal.
However, in the playoffs, you need depth. You can't just rely on Skubal to pitch every game. Sure, the rest of the Tigers staff has been pitching very, very well, but I don't think it's it's oranges to apples. But I would just rather have two guys at the top, three guys at the top who are solidified like studs, pitching my playoff series.
Okay. Yeah. I was gonna say another thing with the Tigers is they just called up Jackson Jobe, their top pitching prospect, number 6 prospect in baseball. He's gonna be in their bullpen, so that adds to their pitching staff. But yeah, no, I get it. You'd rather have more secure pitching staff in terms of the rotation and depth. I get that. All right. I mean, that's all I got. We're very excited to see these playoff races play out. And yeah. So,
what are you, final predictions? What are the 3 teams that missed the wild card? 2 in the AL, 1 in the NL.
So it's tough. I mean, I'm gonna say the Mariners miss it. Unfortunately, I just think they have a tough schedule. And I think the Twins miss it too, just because they're playing just as bad as the Royals are, and the Royals just happen to be 1 game up on them. And then in the NL, I mean, by default, I'm actually gonna say the Diamondbacks miss it.
Wow.
I think the Braves, yes, they're playing the Mets, but no matter what happens, what they do in that Royals series matters too. And who do the Mets close out their season with? They close out with the Brewers, who have already clinched their division. So I don't know. It's interesting, but that's what I'm going to go with. What about you?
I am going to say that the Braves missed the playoffs in the National League.
Fair.
In the American League, I think both the Twins and the Tigers will miss the playoffs.
You think the Tigers are going to fall off a cliff?
Hot take. I hate to say it.
Rooting against America's team.
The thing that worries me the most is playing Tampa. Like, Tampa has shown throughout the season that they have the fight when they really need to fight. Like, I'm not saying in terms of for the playoffs, but just individual games. And that worries me. And I mean it as no disrespect to Tigers fans. I want the Tigers there, but I don't know what version of the Tampa Bay Rays the Tigers will be facing. Will they be facing the down but never out Rays?
It's a wild
card. Will they be facing the let's go to 2025 and see what happens? Like, that's what my concern is.
It's a wild card in its own, which Rays team they'll get.
Yeah, that certainly is.
Fair enough.
You know what? I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Expand the wild card. It just needs to happen.
All 30 teams. All 30 teams make it every year. Come on.
The White Sox should play the Yankees in a 7-game series.
All right. I mean, that's all I got. Let's watch some baseball this week. See what happens, and we'll come back maybe Thursday or Friday, talk about the last series of the year and what could possibly happen. And I'm excited for it.
Let's go baseball, baby.
Let's go baseball. We're back. If you enjoyed, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and we will see you guys next time. Go baseball. Peace.